You know what makes people uncomfortable? Silence. Not just the absence of sound, but the presence of someone who's genuinely comfortable in it. Someone who doesn't need to fill every moment with noise, with chatter, with the endless performance of being acceptable. Someone who chooses to be alone and actually means it. We live in a world that treats solitude like a disease, like something to be cured. You're at a party, standing by yourself for more than 30 seconds, and someone rushes over with concern in their eyes. Are you okay? Do you want me to introduce you to someone? As if being alone is the same as being abandoned. As if silence is something that needs to be rescued from. But here's what's interesting. The people who choose solitude, who genuinely choose it, they're not running away from anything. They're not hiding. They're not broken or damaged or socially inept. They've discovered something that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. They've discovered that the noise, the constant connection, the endless distraction, it's not bringing them closer to life. It's taking them further away from it. Think about it. When was the last time you were truly alone? Not just physically alone, but actually present with yourself? No phone, no music, no background noise, no mental to-do list running on repeat. Just you, sitting with the raw experience of being alive. For most people, that thought is terrifying. 30 seconds of that and the panic sets in. The discomfort. The urgent need to grab for something, anything, to fill the void. But what if I told you that void isn't empty? What if I told you that what we call loneliness is actually the sound of something trying to speak? Something we've been drowning out our entire lives with a constant noise and endless distraction. The people who choose solitude, they've learned to hear it. And once you hear it, everything changes. Let's be honest about what's really happening here. We've built a culture that worships connection but creates isolation. We celebrate constant availability but destroy presence. We demand authenticity but punish anyone who actually shows up as themselves. And in the middle of all this contradiction, we've somehow decided that being alone is the ultimate failure. You see it everywhere. Social media has turned existence into a performance. You're not living your life, you're curating it. Every moment has to be shared, validated, approved by an audience you don't even know. You eat a meal, and before you taste it, you photograph it. You experience something beautiful, and before you feel it, you're already thinking about how to describe it, how to package it, how to make it consumable for others. The message is clear. If you're alone, something is wrong with you. If you're not constantly surrounded by people, constantly engaged, constantly connected, you're somehow less than. You're missing out. You're being left behind. The fear of missing out has become so powerful that we've forgotten to ask what we're actually missing. We've confused being busy with being alive. We've mistaken constant stimulation for genuine experience. And here's the cruel part. The more connected we become, the more isolated we feel. You've felt this, haven't you? You're in a room full of people, everyone talking, laughing, performing, and you feel utterly alone, not because you're separate from them, but because you are them. You're playing the same game, following the same script, and somewhere deep down, you know it's all theater. You know that none of you are actually meeting each other. You're meeting the versions of yourselves that you think are acceptable, that you think are lovable, that you think will be approved. The exhaustion that comes from this is real. It's not just tiredness. It's a soul-deep weariness that no amount of sleep can touch, because you're not just tired from doing. You're tired from pretending. You're tired from the constant negotiation between who you are and who you think you need to be. You're tired from abandoning yourself over and over again in the name of fitting in, of being normal, of not making waves. And then there are those people, the ones who step away, the ones who choose differently. And we don't know what to do with them. We call them antisocial, loners, hermits. We worry about them. We try to fix them. We can't comprehend that they're not broken. They've just stopped pretending that the noise is music. But here's what we don't see. Here's what makes us so uncomfortable about them. They found something we've lost. They've accessed something we've forgotten exists. And deep down, underneath all our judgments and concerns, we know it. We know that they're not missing out. We are. So what is it? What have they found in the silence that we're so desperately avoiding? Let me tell you something about the nature of consciousness itself. You are not a thing. You're not a solid, permanent entity moving through time. You're a process, a happening, a dance between awareness and experience. But you've been taught to think of yourself as a noun when you're actually a verb. And that confusion, that fundamental misunderstanding of what you are, it's the root of almost all your suffering. When you're constantly surrounded by others, constantly performing, constantly engaged in the social dance, you never get to experience yourself as you actually are. You only experience yourself as you appear to others. You become a reflection, a mirror of expectations. And slowly, imperceptibly, you lose touch with the direct experience of being alive. The people who choose solitude, they're not escaping from life. They're entering it, fully, completely, without the filter of social performance. In silence, in aloneness, something remarkable happens. The chattering mind begins to settle, the endless commentary, the constant judging, comparing, planning, rehearsing, it all starts to quiet down. And in that quietness, you begin to notice something you've been missing your entire life. You begin to notice that you're already here, that you've always been here, that beneath all the noise, all the doing, all the becoming, there's a presence that's witnessing it all. And that presence, that awareness, it doesn't need anything added to it. It's not missing anything. It's not incomplete. It's whole. It's always been whole. This is what the mystics have been trying to tell us for thousands of years. This is what the poets and the philosophers and the sages have been pointing at. You are not the person you think you are. You are not the collection of thoughts, memories, and identities you've accumulated. You are the space in which all of that appears. You are the awareness itself. And that awareness doesn't need validation. It doesn't need approval. It doesn't need to be anything other than what it already is. But you can't discover this in the noise. You can't find this in constant connection, because connection, real connection, doesn't happen between people. It happens within people. You have to connect with yourself first. You have to drop the performance, strip away the masks, and meet yourself in the raw, unfiltered present moment. And that takes solitude. That takes silence. That takes the courage to sit with yourself without distraction. Now here's the paradox, and it's a beautiful one. The people who are most comfortable alone are often the ones who can most genuinely connect with others, because they're not connecting from neediness. They're not connecting from incompleteness. They're connecting from wholeness. They don't need you to complete them. They don't need your validation to feel real. They can meet you as you are because they've learned to meet themselves as they are. Think about the difference between these two experiences. On one hand, you have connection based on need. Two incomplete people coming together, hoping the other will fill the void, make them feel less alone, validate their existence. This is what most people call relationship. And it's exhausting. It's a constant negotiation, a constant performance, a constant fear that if you show up too fully, too honestly, you'll be abandoned. And on the other hand, you have connection based on overflow. Two whole people coming together, sharing from their fullness rather than their emptiness, not because they need each other, but because they choose each other, not to complete themselves, but to celebrate themselves. This is rare. This is precious. And it can only happen when both people have learned to be alone without being lonely. You see, loneliness and aloneness are not the same thing. Loneliness is the feeling of being separated from yourself. You can be lonely in a crowd. You can be lonely in a relationship. You can be lonely in a life full of activity and connection. Because loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about being disconnected from your own being. Aloneness, true aloneness, is completely different. It's not the absence of connection. It's the presence of yourself. It's the direct experience of your own existence without the buffer of social performance. And far from being lonely, it's actually the end of loneliness, because when you're fully present with yourself, when you're in direct contact with your own awareness, you realize something profound. You were never separate to begin with. The sense of isolation, of being cut off, it was an illusion created by the constant noise, the constant distraction, the constant running away from yourself. So what happens when you stop running? What happens when you choose to sit in the silence, to be with yourself, to drop the performance and meet what's actually here? At first, it's uncomfortable. Let's be honest about that. You're used to being distracted. You're used to filling every moment with something. When you stop, when you actually stop, all the things you've been avoiding come rushing in. Thoughts, emotions, fears, regrets, the whole messy, complicated reality of being human. And your first instinct is to run again, to grab for the phone, to turn on the TV, to call someone, anyone, to make the discomfort go away. But if you stay with it, if you have the courage to sit through that initial discomfort, something shifts. The storm begins to settle. The thoughts that seem so overwhelming start to lose their charge. You begin to notice that they're just thoughts. They come and they go. They're not you. They're just weather patterns moving through the sky of your awareness. And underneath the thoughts, underneath the emotions, underneath all the drama of your personal story, you start to notice something else. A stillness, a peace, a sense of okayness that doesn't depend on anything being different than it is. This is what people who meditate for years are searching for. This is what monks retreat into caves to find. But it's not somewhere else. It's not something you have to achieve or earn or become worthy of. It's already here. It's always been here. You just had to be quiet enough to notice it. The people who choose solitude, they've tasted this. And once you taste it, you can't go back to the way things were. You can't pretend that the noise is necessary. You can't believe that your worth depends on other people's opinions. You can't buy into the story that you need to be constantly doing, constantly achieving, constantly becoming something other than what you already are. This doesn't mean you become a hermit. This doesn't mean you reject all human connection. Actually, it means the opposite. When you're no longer afraid of being alone, you can finally be truly present with others. You're not with them because you need them. You're with them because you want them. You're not performing. You're not hiding. You're not trying to get something from them. You're just there, fully, completely. And that kind of presence, that kind of genuine availability, it's magnetic, it's powerful, it's rare. People sense this in you, even if they can't name it. There's a quality of groundedness, of self-possession, of quiet confidence that comes from knowing yourself deeply. You're not reactive. You're not needy. You're not constantly seeking approval. And paradoxically, this makes you more appealing, not less, because everyone is hungry for realness. Everyone is tired of the performance. And when they meet someone who's not performing, who's not pretending, who's genuinely comfortable in their own skin, it's like oxygen in a room that's been slowly suffocating. But here's the thing. You can't fake this. You can't perform authenticity. You can't pretend your way into genuine self-possession. The only way to get there is through the door of solitude, through the practice of being alone without distraction, through the courage to meet yourself exactly as you are, without judgment, without the need to be different, without the escape routes you've relied on your entire life. This is what scares people. This is why solitude is so threatening. Because deep down, we know that if we stopped running, if we actually sat still and looked at ourselves honestly, we might not like what we find. We might discover that we've been living a life that isn't ours. We might realize that we've abandoned our own truth in favor of acceptance. We might see that the person we've been presenting to the world is a carefully constructed fiction designed to keep us safe, to keep us approved, to keep us from being rejected. And that realization is painful, but it's also liberating. Because once you see the cage, you can start to open the door. So here we are. I've shown you what the people who choose solitude have discovered. I've pointed to the silent power that comes from being genuinely comfortable in your own presence. But now what? What do you do with this? How do you begin? You don't have to go live in a cave. You don't have to delete all your social media and cut off contact with the world. This isn't about extremes. It's about intention. It's about creating space in your life for genuine solitude. Not loneliness, not isolation, but real, chosen aloneness. Start small. 10 minutes a day, no phone, no music, no distractions. Just sit with yourself. Notice what comes up. Don't judge it. Don't try to fix it. Just observe. Watch your thoughts the way you'd watch clouds passing through the sky. They come. They go. You remain. It will be uncomfortable at first. Your mind will scream for distraction. You'll feel restless, anxious, bored. This is normal. This is the withdrawal symptom of a life lived in constant noise. Stay with it. The discomfort is not a sign that you're doing it wrong. It's a sign that you're doing it right. You're finally meeting the parts of yourself you've been running from, and gradually, something will shift. The noise will settle. The urgency will fade. You'll start to notice the space between your thoughts, the gap between the stimulus and your reaction. And in that space, you'll find freedom. You'll find choice. You'll find the you that's been buried in the years of conditioning, performing, and pretending. From that place, everything changes. Your relationships become more genuine because you're not relating from neediness. Your work becomes more meaningful because you're not doing it for validation. Your life becomes your own because you're no longer living by someone else's script. The silent power of people who choose solitude isn't about being antisocial. It's not about superiority or detachment. It's about being so fully present with yourself that you're finally available to be present with life, with others, with the raw, beautiful, terrible, magnificent experience of being alive. You don't need anyone's permission for this. You don't need to wait until your life is less busy, until you have more time, until circumstances are different. The door to this freedom is always open. It's always been open. The question is, will you walk through it? Will you have the courage to sit in silence and meet yourself? Will you risk discovering that you're not who you thought you were? Will you choose to stop performing and start living? The world will keep spinning. The noise will keep roaring. The demands will keep coming. But somewhere in the middle of all that chaos, there's a space of profound stillness, a silent power that doesn't need to announce itself, a way of being that doesn't require validation. The people who found this, they're not special. They're not enlightened. They're not better than you. They just made a choice. They chose to stop running. They chose to be alone without being lonely. They chose to meet themselves in the silence and discover that they were never as broken, never as incomplete, never as unworthy as they'd been taught to believe. And now, right now, that choice is in front of you too. Not someday. Not when you're ready. Now. The silence is waiting. The stillness is here. The question is, are you brave enough to listen? Are you willing to discover what's been there all along, underneath the noise, underneath the performance, underneath the endless doing? You are. I know you are. Because something in you recognized the truth in these words. Something in you remembers what it's like to be whole, to be complete, to be enough exactly as you are. That something has always been there. It's just been drowned out by the noise. So turn down the volume. Step into the silence. Choose solitude not as an escape, but as a homecoming. And discover for yourself the silent power that comes from being genuinely, courageously, authentically alone. This is your life, not the performance of it, not the idea of it, the actual present moment experience of it. And it's waiting for you in the silence. It's always been waiting. All you have to do is stop running and finally come home.